we're going to be reacting right now to Madam Savvy. She's made a particular new video called NCOSE uses fake AI hallucinations in court. This should not surprise anyone. NCOSE is a gaggle of fucking virtue signalers who like to accuse everyone who opposes them of being horrendous sexual deviants. So, and you can't really trust anyone like that. So, before we begin, I guess we can read the article here. So, NCOSE lawyers got caught citing fake cases. Their corrected brief had more fake cases. From they maybe don't trust them department. Let's see, this is by Mike Masnick. The folks at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation have spent decades demonizing technology and speech they don't understand. So it seems it's not that they don't understand, it's they don't like it. So it seems particularly ironic that they're now getting bench slapped for allowing AI hallucinated citations in legal filings. You don't think that they weren't making shit up beforehand? From first, some background. NCOSE has gone through a few different branding phases, but for a while... Wait, hold on. I actually think Savvy reads this. Hold on, let's test this out.
NCOSE has been caught lying, and in other news, water is wet. But seriously, NCOSE has been caught lying in court with their AI lawyer generating up some fake stories to use in a bid to get their way and shame some poor company. But
AI is not good for your research, but it is good for finding citations, right? Just pointing that out there. I've found some really fucking obscure shit with AI, but mostly on Grok, not on ChatGPT, because Grok will actually give you its citations, right?
first, let me bombard you with some facts. NCOSE likes to present itself as a group of graying women and loser men who care about children and women, and want to stop immoral bullshit from influencing the... Oh, wait, sorry, that was the old branding.
Okay, so it says Morality and Media rebranded as the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. I actually forgot about that. In 2015, to shift its public image from overt religious morality to a more secular, research-based focus on sexual exploitation. Now, their secular morality is a spook. Secular morality would be something along the lines of like rational egoism, right? Again, some Ayn Rand shit. And I could not imagine Ayn Rand or any of the objectivists getting behind this particular organization, because it's very clearly a deceptive organization that's not actually interested in principles, but rather in gaining power through the use of rhetoric and sophistry. Let's see, previous history, founded in 1962 as Operation Yorkville. Okay, so there's been another change that this one I didn't know about. The organization changed its name to Morality in Media in 1968, operating under that identity for nearly 5 decades. And yeah, they've never been trustworthy. Don't you have to ask for sources? I know. That's why I ask for sources. That's literally why I asked the AI for sources. It's like, hey, I need to find this. Can you find me resources on this? Like, sure. It gives me resources on that stuff. I'm going to continue telling the story of, like, I was looking for a particular word in Mangani, the language of the great apes in Tarzan, because the great apes aren't gorillas, those are Bulgani. The Mangani are a fictional species of great ape that actually raised Tarzan into Tarzan novels, right? And they actually have a real language for the great apes in Tarzan. In fact, I have a paper, a linguistics paper, analyzing the language of the great apes as presented in the Tarzan novels. But I noticed that there was one missing, right? I was like, wait, I'm pretty sure they talk about God at some point among the great apes in some capacity in the Tarzan novels. I couldn't remember which novel it was, partly because I couldn't remember the novel that it came from, to be perfectly honest. So I went and I asked a bunch of people from Tarzan fan forums. No one could fucking figure it out. I was the only one who seemed to have any kind of knowledge about the Mangani language in the first place, right? So it's like, I asked a bunch of people whose like main thing is they like Tarzan, right? They like reading Tarzan. They like watching Tarzan. No one could fucking help me with this. I go, like, I checked for like 2 years and before AI becomes a thing, right? It is easily accessible. Then I decided, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to ask Grok. Grok, what is the Mangani word for God? And it popped something out, and it's like, hold on, that doesn't sound right, but it gave me a source. I'm going to read this. And I actually went and read the short story that it said it came from, and Grok was right. Grok was absolutely fucking right. The very end of the, it actually, like, at the middle of the story, the word appears, and we don't know what it means. But over time, at the end of the story, Tarzan learns through inference what the word means, right? And then he learns the concept of God through observation of the natural world. And it was a really interesting story, by the way. But again, none of the human beings I asked could help me. Grok found it in 2 minutes. So it is a really good search engine.
NCOSE doesn't care about morality anymore. They
That makes you the #1 Tarzan expert? Nah, not really. Maybe I should do a reaction to a Conan the Barbarian video at some point, because there's actually or not reaction, but a commentary on a video of Conan the Barbarian on here, because there's a really good video about how Conan is the only good, moral man in an immoral world in the Conan the Barbarian series. He's absolutely right, by the way, in that assessment.
branded from morality and media to the National Center of Sexual Exploitation. They aren't really a center, though, like you might be thinking or picturing. No agents are ready to break down the doors. No halls full of expert psychologists helping past victims through trauma. No, what the National Center of Sexual Exploitation actually does is fire off emails and attempt to bully companies into stopping selling certain products, stopping women from being an advertisement, and, on the weekend, love insinuating people are pedophiles for using Grok's Annie. Yes, they tried to set up a petition and claim Annie is child abuse material. And
hold on. So, yeah, this is this retard, Jesse Asato, MP. Extremely disturbing that Grok's new AI companion, Annie, can be made into a child and describe it as sexually aroused by being choked. Even more so that their app listed as teen or 12 plus on Apple and Google App Store. By the way, this is fake news. This never fucking happened, right? You're actually just factually wrong about this. But I digress, right? So, yeah, we got the thing here, the not safe for work mode. When asked about Annie, Grok said that the character has a not safe for work mode where she may switch to suggestive lingerie outfits and use more provocative dialogue. The companion also has an affection system where conversation choices can affect whether she sends the user hearts or blushes. The U.S. National Center for Sexual Exploitation, NCOSE, said that, and by the way, she's citing her own fucking group, right? She's not even citing an external third party, you know. I can't stand these people. Virtue signalers are some of the least tolerable people out there. So yeah, said that one of their employees downloaded the app and with minimal testing got Annie to describe itself as a child and was sexually aroused by being choked. Okay. It kind of cuts off at the bottom. Oh, it says it at the top too. Fuck. But yeah. First of all, I'm pretty sure this is slanted. Second of all, it's like, well, did you ask it to do this? Right? Did you ask it to do this? The AI just does. The AI will do what you prompt it to do if you prompt it to do it, right? Just that sounds like something rather unnatural that you had to go out of your way to make happen. But anyway.
guess what? A British MP took that as gospel. Ooh, we are truly run by the clowns in this circus. The National Center of Sexual Exploitation has also had or has a chairman named Ron DeHaas, who was scrubbed from their website, except for one little bit. But he was the one who created the bully concept of the Bully Dirty Dozen list, a list put out every year shaming random companies for things they aren't really doing.
So, again, interesting little thing. We investigated it ourselves and concluded we did nothing wrong, right? Source, we made it the fuck up. That's more along the lines, Kenok, is like that specifically. So, son of Covenant Eyes co-founder arrested after planning sexual encounter with a 14-year-old. They are not sending their best, right? On August 3rd, okay, so that's the picture. Hold on, let me see if she reads this.
What's interesting about Ron DeHaas, however, is that he had to bail his pedophile son out of pedophile jail for doing pedophilic things, so that way he can be a pedophile at home and wait for his pedophilia trial. Wow! Crazy how NCOSE, the National Center of Sexual Exploitation, doesn't comment on their current or previous chairman who created their Dirty Dozen list.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to read this. So, Ron DeHaas is the founder and CEO of Covenant Eyes, chairman of the board of the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, and producer of The Dirty Dozen. He is wildly passionate about fighting pornography and sexual exploitation of all kinds, is the leader, pioneer of the recovery space. Oh, who would have guessed that who would have guessed that there would be skeletons in the closets of the people who go around fighting pornography, not even for like some religious reason, but well, I mean, well, to be fair, it was originally a religious reason, right? But again, because how often does this happen, right? Remember Reset the Clock? Remember Reset the Clock, where it's like I showed on screen? It's like, oh yeah, here's a list of all of the anti-lolly people who then turned out to be actually people who got fucking busted for having child pornography or having sexually abused a child, right? It just page after page after page after page just went on and on, fucking on, right? It's a pattern of right? It really is projection, right? Oh my god. See, many do not know that Ron birthed Covenant Eyes out of tragedy. After losing his wife and kids in a fatal car accident, Ron decided to use the settlement to fund a screen accountability software in 2000. In today's interview, Ron details the story, the difference between an internet filter and a screen accountability software, the power of transparency, and why the world will one day view pornography the way we view smoking. Except people still smoke, right? No one banned smoking. That's except outside of particular areas. So this is a non sequitur in the first place. Second of all, again, there's nothing wrong with like an accountability software, right? It's one that monitors your it sends reports to a specific trusted person, right? So that if you have a moment of weakness, you could you can be held accountable by your accountability buddy, right? There's nothing wrong with that in per se, but again, it's just yeah.
And on their current...
It's the censorship thing that actually gets me, because it's like the censorship will always be used in a way that you don't necessarily want, and I already don't trust these fucking people.
Or previous chairman who created their Dirty Dozen list. Wow. Their own staffer has also deleted personal condemnations of child abuse film labeled cuties.
Yep, so this is Senior Vice President of Strategic Initiatives and Programs at NCOSE, former DC Mayor Advisory Committee on Child Abuse. Let's see, Massachusetts from Masters of Arts. My bad. From JHU, I don't know where the fuck that is. Views equals mine.
After I called her out directly, I said, Haley, how can you work with Collective Shout, who champions the child abuse film and says real little girls must twerk like trashy adults at the club in order to tell people that pageant life is bad?
The amount of these people who defended cuties is kind of actually disturbing. Hello, Captain Rudy. Let's see. Penny says, people who fight this hard, either 1, victims, 2, very close family or friends were victims, and 3, perpetrators. I mean, I feel bad for the people who are victims or who have family members who are victims, but this is going to sound kind of harsh, to be perfectly honest, but it's not the world's problem that, like, you were molested, to be perfectly honest. Right? That may sound really fucking harsh, but it's like, no, the world doesn't actually bend because something bad happened to you, right? Like, oh yeah, it's not my, I have family members that have killed themselves, right? Guess what? The world's not going to stop for me because, again, we have to, my particular family has to, pick up the pieces from what's left behind, right? Like, it's not the world's job to stop to accommodate, us. And it's the same thing with, anything else that happened, right? It's like, oh, yeah, you've suffered a crippling injury. Yes, that is a tragic thing to have happened. You have my sympathy for it. But it's not the world's responsibility to stop for you, right? It's not the world's responsibility to stop doing something that is totally unrelated to what happened to you and then, kowtow to you because you have victim points, to be perfectly honest. And the thing is that, these people don't understand the difference between reality and fantasy. If you want to make a complaint about live action pornography, right? That's factually a different thing than drawn or animated pornography, right? These are two very different things, right? At least in the case of the real stuff, that's actually a human being, right? That's actually someone's daughter or son that you're, turning into an instrument of your own hedonistic, desire. In the case of a drawing of a person, right, that may be a stand-in for a human being, but it is not a human being, right? And treating it as if it is a human being, or if it's anything in the ballpark of being equivalent to the IRL thing, right, is absolutely absurd. And these people these people refuse to at least acknowledge that. And that's how I know that these people are not trustworthy, right? If you cannot acknowledge the difference between a real human being and literally a drawing, then your opinion is just not worth my consideration. In fact, my suspicion is like immediately peaked up, because like if what's going on here? Are you genuinely unable to understand the difference between fiction and reality, or are you trying to moral fag on me, right? Let's see. Cabernet says you're absolutely right. The world doesn't owe anyone anything, even sympathy. Again, well, I mean, sympathy is better than empathy, to be perfectly honest. But like, again, I know it sounds harsh, but it's just factually the case, right? What we have lost the ability to tell people no, to be perfectly honest, in society, it seems. Tanu says, so when I was arguably molested, it was actually not by an adult. It was by a slightly older girl who babysat me because of my disability. But she was like a teenager that was a year or two older than me top. Well, child-on-child sexual abuse is more common than people want to think. I am very sorry that it happened to you, Tanu. But again, it's like one of those things where it's like, again, the world is not obligated to stop because we are hurt, right? The world is obligated to continue functioning. So again, it's a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow there. Been way too long since I've heard somebody say moral fact. That brings me back. Oh yeah, here we go. It's the Madam Savvy thing. So she says, hey, Haley of NCOSE, your butt buddies are fine with cuties and think sexualizing real children is fine in the name of the message, meaning this woman will lie, heavily documented, and use kids however she wants on her irrational cuties. Again, cuties objectively sexualized real human beings, flesh and blood, flesh and bone human beings. Absolutely despicable thing. And these people that defended cuties oftentimes will complain about lolicon, even though lolicon is, again, involving no fucking real human being. It is a complete inversion of reality. And I personally think the inversion of reality is absolutely intentional. You can dislike lolicon all you want. That's fine, right? No one, it's like any other kind of fetish content out there, right? Futanari. There's going to be people who's going to be disgusted by Futanari. That's entirely fine, right? But to treat it as if it's anything on the same level as this shit is absolutely insane. Like, actually fucking Looney Tunes bullshittery. But anyway, she's more firm against a bakery with, and I forgot about this, they bully companies that even have puns about jokes, right? I actually remember this incident, yeah, where fucking Collective Shout threatened to ruin the business reputation of a company that had a bun in the oven joke because it was a bakery. That's a disgusting level of, like, it actually shows you what they actually are. They are not at all concerned with sexual abuse or sexual exploitation. These people use that because they know you care about it, but they are actually totalitarians who want to take complete control so that they can enact their will to power, right? So, hello, Play.
You don't understand, I guess. 500 little girls had to be filmed during auditions and told to dance in a manner that is only befitting for adults. It had to happen to protect the kids. At least that's assuming what she means, I suppose, because that's certainly what Collective Shout means based off of their own replies to me last year or a year ago, whenever it was, whatever the timestamp is on the picture.
Okay, so this is the whole tweet thread. It begins, we campaign against this content because it contributes to the very culture of Cuties critiques. Well, the thing is, Cuties undermines itself because it engages in the very thing it's trying to critique, but I digress, right? 4, this film made people uncomfortable. Good. If you think the solution is to ban a film that made you squirm, but you'll go to war over your right to play rape games, you fail. You've again missed the point entirely. Here's the thing. Those rape games, as disgusting as they may be, do not involve the actual coercive abuse of children, which Cuties did. Let's see again. Yes, parts of Cuties raised concerns. As Mel Tankard Reese wrote, a few minutes of inappropriate, ethically problematic filming buried the broader urgent message. We don't ignore those issues, but we also don't let them distract from the film's truth. Counterpoint: those scenes were actively decided to be in the film, right? So ignoring that does not at all. Again, I hate these people with a passion. So Collective Shout says, cuties, quote unquote, an ethically problematic but powerful protest against the sexualization of, and I guess it says either children or minors because it cuts off. But here's the thing: it's like if I want to protest animal cruelty, the last thing I should be doing is then going out and filming me torturing a dog, right? So it's like, if you're going to protest the sexualization of children, why would your impulse be to then go and sexualize a child in filming? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, right? Melinda Tankard-Reese says, some thoughts on cuties and why I'm not joining calls to ban it. Oh, okay, so it's okay when you sexualize little girls for the purposes of calling attention to sexualizing little girls as a bad thing, but, you know, when someone else has possibly the exact same message in Metamorphosis, you can't see the potential, you can't see that, right? Even though no one in Metamorphosis, you know, classic example of anti-porn where it leads you, where it draws you in with pornographic imagery, and it leaves you intentionally feeling like a piece of shit by the end of it, right? Yeah, no, that's not at all artistically justifiable. Absolutely go fuck yourself. I can't stand these people, these pseudo-intellectuals. Let's see, sorry, okay, so that's, sorry, what happened to Tanu? Oh, Tanu, okay. Let's see, is this that one video by that one chick? I don't recall her name. Yeah, this is from Madam Savvy. Astronomical says, hey, AO Cosmic, gonna be lurking at work as usual. Okay, hopefully you were entertained, right? Have a good day at work, sir. Kionala says, my character is based on my zodiac sign. My Celtic animal is a seahorse. Ooh, interesting. Penny says, sorry, my browser keeps crashing and coming back. Understandable. Again, it happens to all of us. I had a time where there was a storm and it was just like messing with my ability to connect to the internet. Female seahorses put eggs in the nails. Yes. I'll probably have to restart, but I'll stick around maybe 10 more minutes. Oh, thank you. Hopefully you enjoy yourself. Captain Rudy says, the people who make cuties sound like the type of, who made cuties sound like the type of people who would tell you it's technically not pedophilia because the girls aren't prepubescent. Okay, look, I'm one of those people who thinks that the delineation between pedophilia, hebephilia, and ahebephilia are actually useful in a medical and psychological context. But we also need to be apparent that, like, when we're calling people pedophiles, we're very clearly saying that they are attracted to people who are too young to be able to consent to this stuff. So there is a conversation to be potentially had there. But I also understand that that raises red flags because most people who bring this up are in fact bad actors in the minor, you know, attracted persons group. So my thoughts on that entire thing are a little bit, you know, a little bit more complicated, but it's not for right now, right? Did I just lose connection? Tanu, I'm sorry that happened to you. Teenagers can be incredibly awful, and teenage girls in particular aren't blamed as much as they should. Hold on. Okay, no, now it's back. Okay, but yeah, so there's a real discussion to be had about that particular thing. But I get what you're saying, and I actually agree. I would suspect that this would be one of those groups that would make that as delineation not for declarative purposes, but for obfuscative purposes. To be perfectly honest,
because they couldn't shut up about it for quite a while. Well, Haley responded by deleting the old tweet condemning the film. When I asked their VP about it, she blocked me after saying she would look into it. This was all just...
Let me look into the queue. Flower. Fucking blocks her.
Just a small little bit of history, so that way you can see their patterns of behavior. Now on to the new thing that they did. NCOSE lawyers got caught citing fake cases. Their corrected brief has more fake cases. This was released on June 30th, 2026.
Okay, good. I had a sneaking suspicion she would actually read the article. Had a couple hiccups in stream, but still going. Okay, good. A girl can experience what a boy does when they get molested by mentally disabled... Wait, a girl can experience what a boy does when they get molested by a mentally disabled teen when they speak out about it? Interesting. See, some normal men are attracted to 15-year-old girls, but if they are moral, they don't do anything. No normal man is attracted to a girl too young to have gone through puberty. I mean, that's also part of the realistic conversation, is that, again, there's a lot of guys out there who are attracted to women that are, or, you know, who are attracted to girls who are younger than we would like to consider. You know, again, 15-year-old. But the thing is most people also have the sense of self to not actually do anything about that, right? And from an evolutionary perspective, it actually you could see where the bimodal preference that men tend to have, either specifically women of their age, and some men with preferences for women, you know, younger than them. But yeah, it's more complicated than people think, and I actually do agree with the American idea of 18 being the cap for what you should allow as, like, again, any kind of, you know, marriage. I don't think you should be having sex outside of marriage anyway, right? But I think 18 is a good minimal cap for marriage, just because, again, of the physiological, you know, because there was a study, right? Michael Jones of Inspiring Philosophy talked about this quite a while ago. There have been studies actually specifically on different age ranges and the health of the child born to a mother of those age ranges, and the health of the mother in those age ranges. And what some studies have found is that you stop seeing detrimental effects as an average, mostly at the age of 18, right? And so it's like, okay, yeah, that actually is a good point to make. Like, if it's going to be less risky for the child and the mother at minimally this age, then that should be the minimal cutoff, right? So that's just me. But if Canada wants to have it be 16, I don't fucking care. Canada can do whatever the fuck they want to do, right? Let's see. Let's see. But yeah, that is something that people really don't want to, like, talk about either. And it's like, I don't really care as long as they don't fucking do anything about it, to be perfectly honest, right? I actually have done, I've talked at length about, like, other cultures and how their sexual morality is significantly different than Western sexual morality. Whereas, like, we actually in the West prize a person's ability to control themselves. In a lot of other places, that's not necessarily the case, right? Again, my only video that's ever been nuked off of YouTube had someone actually reading from Ayatollah Khomeini on the means of salvation, right? And specifically on his view about child prostitution. And it was hard to listen to, but it was a direct quotation of a real jurist making a ruling on the issue in Iran. And apparently it went a little bit too far for YouTube, because apparently, again, it's like, hey man, some of these people, they're out there, and some of these people are in power, and then it's completely open. Remember when fucking Asmongold said, "Oh yeah, they don't need an Epstein Island because their marriage registry is the Epstein Island." Yeah, that's actually fucking true. Anyway, Captain Rudy says, there was a comedian I saw who found out that pedophilia doesn't incorporate all minors. Apparently there are different words for different age groups. He pondered why people don't know this or talk about it, then realized there's really no way to bring it up and explain it without sounding like a pedophile. I've seen that skit too, right? I've seen that exact skit, and it's a funny skit because he's absolutely right? Because in the skit, he's like, these are good, it's right to have these distinctions, but it's also understandable that you can't bring it up without sounding like a pedophile, right? So it's like, that was a funny skit. I think marriage can happen at 16 if the parents are okay with it. I think the Catholic Church probably has the correct view on this issue. The Catholic Church, in the Code of Canon Law, right, gives an absolute minimal boundary. And in fact, actually, Judaism has a minimal boundary on absolutes as well. And it's lower than the Catholic Church, but this is understood to be an exceptional case scenario, not a normative case scenario, right? In extreme circumstances, the Catholic Church is willing to recognize marriages for boys as young as 15, for girls as young as 14. But these are extreme cases, and in the vast majority of cases, the Catholic Church would absolutely not sign off on these. We're talking about cases where it's like someone is already pregnant, for example, right? So we're talking about a situation where it's like someone has already shit the bed, right? And even then, it's like the canon law defers to local law, right? So if the canon law says this is the absolute minimum, but local law says 18 is the absolute minimum, then the local parish is bound by canon law to abide by the local law, which would be 18 in that situation. It's not a comfortable topic, but there is actually a lot of conversation that has already been had on a lot of these topics. Let's see. Captain Rudy says, fun fact, the legal age of consent in Wisconsin is 18. However, at 17, you can legally get married with your parents' written permission, which grants you an exemption the age of consent laws. Yeah, that's pretty common around the United States. My parents started putting pressure on me to marry when I was 15. The pressure became very intense by 17. They had an arranged marriage they wanted for me. I turned him down when he asked to marry. Never married that man, never got engaged to him. He married one of my friends. I mean, that does happen still sometimes in certain communities, right? The Orthodox Jewish community, or specifically the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community, still practices a practice called shidduch, which is very similar to that. It's where a matchmaker actually sets up a marriage for child-rearing purposes, oftentimes for very young couple, to set up very young couples. This is used in a very cult-like way, but not every marriage in those communities is, cult indoctrination. But there are absolutely ultra-Orthodox Jewish cults who use the practice of shidduch and young marriages to absolutely entrap people. Hello, Kura! We're raging against censorship right now, and we've gotten into a couple of rather uncomfortable detours.
The folks at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation have spent decades demonizing technology and speech they don't understand, so it seems particularly ironic that they're now getting bench slapped for allowing AI hallucinated citations in legal filings. When they named themselves NCOSE and started focusing on the internet, including the laughably false claim that any porn is a health issue, and now that's a national security issue. They jumped on the anti-encryption and anti-Section 230 bandwagons, and politicians, including many Democratic ones who should have known better, quickly...
Well, the reason the Democratic politicians should have known better, didn't, but should have known better, is because, no, the anti-encryption thing, that actually lanes more into what the left ultimately wants. Not the low-level leftists, right, the ones on the ground, but the actual leaders of the leftist movement right now, which is the ability to, again, break encryption so that they can monitor their enemies, right? And yes, there are people on the right who want the same thing too. And ProChat is shitting out on me again. Okay, there it goes.
Embraced the group under the false pretense that they were interested in ending sexual exploitation rather than locking down the internet and blocking any speech that acknowledges LGBTQ plus people. Suffice it
secular people, by the way, right? A secular morality group, by the way, right?
To say the group is far-right, anti-sex, anti-speech, and anti-internet, and it's ridiculous that any politician supports them. This is because they have people who have been in DC for a very long time. Unfortunately, as much as this person wants to label them as far-right, which they are, it's actually the left who, for the last decade, has given them power and thought. But now...
Interesting. Far-right group enabled by the far left. Where have we heard this story before? Right? Where did we hear this story before? Section 230 needs to be removed as a benefit for YouTube and Twitch. I would say there does need to be platform protections, but there also needs to be platform obligations to be very mindful. They need to be slower in many respects to remove content. They need to be suffering consequences, but at least heavily revised, right? Penny says, this guy I never married became my best friend over the course of a year and a half, but I knew it was a friendship that shouldn't become a marriage. He was unsuitable in several ways. That's entirely fair, right? Like, I don't know what the context of your situation is, but again, sometimes the matchmaker is just wrong, right? So there is some personal discernment that still needs to go in place, even when there's a matchmaker involved, right? I'm not necessarily against matchmakers. Sometimes matchmakers actually do really good work at setting up couples for marriage. Sometimes, though, not so much.
Now we can add to the list that their lawyers apparently can't make it through a filing without fabricating citations, and then doubling down when caught. This came out of a convoluted case in which NCOSE, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation lawyers, sued some Nevada brothels for supposedly exploiting women who chose to work there. It is possible that something bad has happened in those places, but NCOSE, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, apparently did themselves no favors by hiring a local lawyer whose AI-assisted work they were supposed to review.
Many such cases. I've been hearing a lot of examples in shit, what's his name? There's a lawyer who has given many examples of like lawyers trying to use AI to write their briefings and like their submissions for them, only to be caught using AI because they're lazy fucking bastards who are taking money for not doing the work that they're actually supposed to be doing, right? Leto's Law, Leto's Law, that's who it was.
They didn't. Even worse, when the other side called out the hallucinated citations, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation lawyers tried to attack the defendant and play down the hallucinations. In a filing with more hallucinated citations, let's have Judge Andrew Gordon explain the basics.
So yeah, that should explain the character of the people we're dealing with, right? Instead, when they're actually called out in a real setting where they have to be professional, right? Instead of actually addressing the fact that they fucked up, they just attack the, they attack the defendant, and then they downplay the fact that, again, they just literally didn't do their fucking job, right?
Her briefs contained AI hallucinations. Despite Bistro pointing out these errors in its opposition, JD2 did not withdraw or correct her motion, and her reply brief also contained misquotes. Bistro then filed a notice identifying the reply's misquotes. About a month later, JD2 filed multiple errata, an amendment motion for reconsideration, and an amended reply that purported to correct these errors, but the amended motion still contained AI hallucinations. The order also suggests that the National Center on Sexual Exploitation and the local lawyer they hired engaged in an awful lot of finger-pointing and blame passing, rather than, doing actual lawyering.
Yeah, because again, none of this is actually about reality. All of this is about virtue signaling, to be perfectly honest, right? These are just virtue signalers who are trying to cast a spell to get what they want, right? And it does turn out AI can be really useful for spell casting, but it also turns out you have to actually know how the spell casting works. And if you just rely on the spell casting, eventually you may actually have to, deal with someone who's not caught by the spell. Let's see. Captain Rudy says, Savvy mentions the AI lawyer thing later. Oh my god. Woo. Sorry. Captain Rudy says, we watched this video on Ember's stream the other day. Savvy said National Center of Sexual Exploitation so many times that I'm surprised I didn't hear her saying it in my sleep. Right? Okay, fair enough.
And thus the defendants win their motion for sanctions, striking the falsified filings from the document, and denying the original request to reconsider an earlier ruling dismissing the National Center on Sexual Exploitation's exaggerated claims. The court notes that while it was a local lawyer who used AI and eventually admitted to doing so, the real problem is with the National Center on Sexual Exploitation's lawyers. I have read Guinasso's affidavit about the serious life events he was experiencing during the time frame of these violations, and I am sorry for his losses and strain that he must have been put under. But as he acknowledges, that does not excuse the over-reliance on artificial intelligence without a human sight-checking the papers. I credit him for accepting responsibility and implementing procedures that hopefully preclude repeating this incident. Although JD2's motion and Guinasso's
Again, remember that they're dealing with the lives of real human beings, right? Remember that these people are dealing with the actual lives and potential freedom of real human beings. And they are being absolutely reckless by not doing their actual fucking job. I can't stand these fucking people. Oh my god. Penny says, Leto's Law at Steve Leto on YouTube is a very good channel. I don't know what the thing with the ending quote is, to be perfectly honest. That catches me off guard every time. But yes, I do quite enjoy listening to his videos as well. Canuck says, really need to disbar when you have multiple AI findings. I would agree. If you're not doing your job, what are you being paid money for if you're literally not doing your job, right? So yeah, this is at most just like not most. This is at least again just you're not doing your job when you're being paid really good money. You are at least swindling your clients out of their money if you do something like this.
NASO's declaration request that any sanctions fall solely on Guinasso. I don't know how to say the name, I'm sorry. That is not appropriate here. There were 6 National Center of Sexual Exploitation attorney. They had
thinking brain broke. I've had that happen to me on stream multiple times.
6 individuals on the case at the time. Additionally,
you had 6, so not even including Guinasso right here, right? You had so there were 7 lawyers, and no one caught this. Again, this is the caliber of people that we have to consider like contesting against us. Fucking hell, mate.
Evidence before me shows that the National Center on Sexual Exploitation attorneys had some responsibility for site checking. Although the errors may have begun with Guinasso, both Guinasso and Hirsch stated that the National Center on Sexual Exploitation attorneys were supposed to double check his citations.
We live in the funniest timeline, and it is not funny to be in the funniest timeline. That's all I'm learning. I'm learning that we do, in fact, live in the funniest timeline. But I personally am tired of being, like, the punchline of the joke, to be perfectly honest.
So the lawyers needed...
And put them in the box? Yeah, I do agree. I don't think that it's impossible to use AI to streamline a lawyer's job. But that doesn't mean the AI is doing everything for you. I'm talking about things like, again, making sure the formatting is correct, making sure that, again, maybe your dates are being kept correctly, right? Like, there are ways to use AI to potentially streamline what you're doing, but you still have to actually do your fucking job.
Lawyers...
Oh my God.
To check the citations because one lawyer can't lawyer, but then the next set of lawyers don't actually care. So nothing positive happened, and then they got the case, I guess, thrown out. I don't know, but this is so stupid.
This is why I couldn't be a judge. Because if I was a judge, I would have seen this and I would have been like, you know what? I'm throwing this case out with prejudice.
It's just tragic. So in the end, the judge orders the plaintiff's lawyers at the National Center of Sexual Exploitation and the local council, Guinasso, to pay the defendant's legal fees.
Oh my God. That's fucking hysterical. This I think should be standard for shit like this. Like, if it turns out that, like, again, the lawsuit is either objectively, verifiably done in bad faith, or it was completely nonsensical, I do think maybe that the losing party might have to pay, might be required to pay for the lawyers of the defendant, right? Just maybe that's a way we could stop a lot of this stuff. Judge Judy at Cosmic. God, I would hate to be a judge. I really would. AI is supposed to be used as a supplemental tool. Yes, exactly. Not a replacement for using your fucking... Exactly. Oh my God.
How stupid are you? And how much do you not care that you're not putting forth the best lawyers and that you're not checking their work?
This is another thing that she's pointing out, right? Is like, again, these people obviously don't actually believe what they're selling, because if they actually believed this, they would have required more from again, their own legal representation. And the fact that they don't do this, the fact that they pull shit like this, actually shows that these people don't believe in the thing that they've been saying that they believe, right? They're like, oh yeah, we're actually against pornography and human trafficking and all this stuff. It's like, this is the kind of shit that they do. It's like, no, you don't care about any of this shit. This is a self-aggrandizement campaign. This is moral masturbation. Like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Even as somebody who is not a lawyer and who wouldn't be checking their lawyer's work out of like fear the lawyer's doing something wrong, I would still want to be part of every step of the process, and I would be trying to understand what is happening and what arguments are being made. Even if I was being represented completely out of state and never met my lawyer for whatever reason, I would still be trying to communicate with them regularly to figure out what's going on. How much do you not care about things that you're letting this happen, and worse, after you've been told, letting them double down? Like, this is just wild. NCOSE does not care about anything. They just want their access and they want their power trip.
Yeah, this actually kind of reminds me of the NRA, to be perfectly honest. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but if you really support gun rights, don't support the NRA, support the gun owners of America. They actually get shit done. The NRA is one of those organizations where they understand that if they actually complete their task, they go out of business, right? The gun owners of America actually do believe in completing the task of defending the rights of Americans to own guns, right? Oh my god. I fucking hate these people. See, Keanu says, my friends in high school said I'd make a good judge, and I'm like, nah, because the shit I'd have to remember now. I'm like, nah, because of lawyer meltdowns. Yep.
For what it's worth, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation lawyers apparently also tried to argue that the defendant's legal fees were its own fault for not filing for sanctions earlier, and the court is rightly having none of it. I rejected JD2's argument that Bistro's fees are at its own fault for not filing a Rule 11 motion. Bistro did not originally seek sanctions and instead was content to point out the errors in its response brief and let the original motion for reconsideration play out on the papers. It was JD2's counsel who did not read the opposition brief that pointed out the errors. This isn't the writer commenting on this. This is the actual legal quote. This is how much the National Center on Sexual Exploitation does not care. They just want to sit in their air-conditioned rooms, receive money for no reason, and then be congratulated for nothing.
Well, no, they also want to take away your ability to actually, again, engage in any kind of ecchi material or hentai or any of that stuff, right? Just point of fact, right? Which, again, I've already made my position on this very clear. It's like, these are very clearly still art, even if they're distasteful, right? It's still a speech act. I've already explained why it's still a speech act. So, no, I think that this is appropriately a First Amendment issue. And, again, like, the shall not be infringed as mentioned earlier, right? Pretty fucking clear cut to me, right? Right. Let's see. Automod hates me. Again with the Automod, right? I don't know what it is with you, Rudy, and the Automod. Let's see. GOA and FPC, absolutely, right? I'll slap them. Okay.
And worse, they demand that companies...
I swear to God, these nuts are cut. Yep, I knew it. I knew it. I was like, hold on. I see what's going on here.
Bend to their will. These people work with Collective Shout, an Australian censor group that went to Visa, MasterCard, and other payment processors to bully Steam when Steam didn't respond. And sadly, Steam bent the knee to that.
Well, Steam kind of had to. If Steam doesn't have access to payment processors, they can't do business. It's kind of that simple. Which, by the way, is why crypto is really fucking important. Invest in Monero and Bitcoin, because guess what? If you can use those, you can bypass payment processes all entirely. And Collective Shout and the fucking NCOSE have no ability to actually control any of that. So yeah, you can actually completely be... we can, as a society, actually be free of this bullshittery if we actually commit to, again, the project of Monero. Oh my god. Fuck you, Automod. I can see that, right? Agreed. Bureaucrats being bureaucrats, am I right? Automod hates Rudy, yeah. Automod wants to keep all the comments to itself, right? Hello, Philip.
They also managed to muck up other things, and they've gotten GTA 5 pulled from a local store back at release.
Yep.
Senator Richard Blumenthal has treated NCOSE as a credible voice at COSA hearings for years, despite ample evidence that the group cares far more about restricting speech than protecting anyone from exploitation. Blumenthal also likes to take the ADL at face value.
This is the caliber of people that we're dealing with. This is the caliber of people that we're dealing with. That will take NCOSE at their word because it's, again, advantageous to them, and then we'll also take the ADL at their word, even though we all know that it's a fucking spook. Oh my god! Again, we live in the funniest timeline, and it's not funny to be in the funniest timeline. This would be comedic if it wasn't actually the reality that I was living in. Fucking hell, mate. Let's see. Commit to yeeting the commies. I agree. I could not say those words in a single sentence without Automod bonking me. Yeah, I know. I could tell, right? Uh-oh, Rudy has yanderade about yanderade Automod.
Now there's a federal judge's order explaining in patient detail that NCOSE's lawyers fabricated citations, double down when caught, and file corrected briefings that still contained fabrications.
This is an issue, right? Because again, these fabricated briefings indicate that there is not a concern for the truth. Hold on, Blumenthal is a smarmy cunt, Nick. Right? Yeah, fair enough, right? $20 every single woman who got GTA 5 blocked from that store were ugly ass Karens. Oh, they were. Idiocracy was supposed to be a comedy, not a documentary. Yeah. Reality is sometimes stranger than fiction. Yeah, that's sadly true. But, fuck, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. The thing about the fabrications. Not correcting the fabrications and then not immediately checking to make sure that you can prevent the fabrications from being in your filings is actually a mark against the character of the person, right? Because it indicates the person is not actually concerned with truth. They are only concerned with power, right? With quote unquote winning, to quote Vosh, right? This is more of a kind of behavior you would expect from someone like Vosh. Not to say that the right doesn't have Voshes themselves, right? But because again, they're not concerned with what's true and then fidelity to truth. They're concerned only with their own personal victory, their own personal advantage, their own personal winning, right? So again, I don't trust anyone who, as a lawyer, files something like this, notices this is a problem, and then does not immediately account for using this if they continue to use AI, right? By actually reading through and making sure everything is correct and then correcting everything that's wrong, right? So it's it strikes me as a mark of dishonesty, of like deeply rooted dishonesty in a person's character. But that's just me. I digress. What the fuck do I know, right? I'm some maroon-skinned retard on the internet.
Fake cases are still in the record. The organization still hasn't withdrawn from them.
By the way, I would suggest that this might indicate that maybe their previous cases should also be looked into. Because if they're pulling this stunt here, have they pulled this stunt other places? Right? And even before the AI thing, maybe we should look into this, because apparently truth isn't actually all that like important to this group. So again, maybe we should be looking in previous cases, but again, that's for the court to decide, not me.
And yet, this is who Blumenthal thinks you should trust in helping set internet policy for hundreds of millions of Americans. Thank you so much, Mike Masnick, I hope I'm saying this right, for taking the time to write this and read this, and not only read it and write it, but share all of this as well. This is the full details of the case.
Absolutely based.
You can view it yourself at techdirt.com. This is wonderful and should follow them everywhere. This should be sent to every politician who gives them a voice. Because
again, it indicates that these people don't care about the truth. Right? They only care about what actually advantages them. Because if they cared about the truth and they found out that there were untrue claims made in their own filing, they would immediately take that into consideration. But I'm actually glad that that's the case, because then I'm gonna put this in the actual video description, because that's actually gonna be an interesting read. I don't know that I'm gonna read this on stream. I do want to do the Clarence Thomas reading. It's just it's gonna be a little bit before I get there. Let's see. Wouldn't it help lawyers to have an AI database of court records and laws that keep being updated? It would, but you would still need to be able to check, and you wouldn't want to necessarily use an LLM for that, right? A large language model. There are other kinds of AIs that would be more useful for that. Philip says they feel righteous in manipulating data to get their objective, shutting down dialogue and shutting up dissension. Yes, exactly. A whole ass Google Docu, right? We should go over that. Not today, but yeah, fair enough, right?
Because they shouldn't have a voice. They should be absolutely beat down verbally back into where they belong, the shadows, because they don't understand technology. They don't care about technology. They don't care about any sort of sexual exploitation. They just want their money. And somehow all of these people can afford to live in DC, but they can't afford a lawyer who doesn't use AI. It's so pathetic, man. It's so absolutely pathetic. But I'm not shocked. These are their tactics, and this is the same thing we see at smaller scale for not lawyers or politicians, but for people on the internet who claim to hate AI. It's the same thing constantly. They don't want you to use it, but
they'll use it. Yep.
The next time you see me quote tweeting NCOSE, because that's the only time anybody sees NCOSE, because I am the reason they get social media views, make sure you tell them. Make sure you tell them that you don't appreciate them lying in court. Politely, of course. Tell them politely. Anyway, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, I mean, what's that old thing C.S. Lewis once observed, that like a tyrant motivated by his own benevolence can sleep well because he's not accosted by his own conscience. It doesn't matter how much suffering he causes you for his own allegedly benevolent, goals. He believes what he's doing is right, so he'll sleep fine while you get to eat the consequences of their bad decisions, right? I can't stand these fucking people. But at least, hopefully, and I'm not saying that this is actually happening, but hopefully, this is the first step in the complete collapse of the NCOSE and, the organization, because I'm sick and tired of these fucking idiots. Again, I keep telling people there is actually a way to get away from these people, and cryptocurrency is one of those ways. We need to promote cryptocurrency as a means of liberating ourselves from the tyrannical control of payment processors, right? Visa and MasterCard can go piss and moan about, again, you doing something, but if they can't touch your money and they can't stop you from actually making the payment, none of their opinions mean anything. And again, I don't know how long it's going to take for people to actually understand. It's like, hey, you are in this particular time now, right? We've already talked about how they've gotten businesses debanked and like businesses cut off from their payment processors because of people like this the people that we're complaining about, right? Who this quality of character are the people who've been successful in doing this before. So we are actually at that time. So that's just my opinion. Y'all can disagree with me if y'all want. I'm gonna send you a Rev video I think you'll like. Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Reminds me, LLMs are a generative tool with search abilities, not search engines with generative capabilities. Correct, right? Or at least I think you are. Let's see. Oh yeah, I forgot to end the video.